Welcome back to Realistic Progression 1, and it's a cloudy day over Europe today on, yeah, looking pretty good. But it's time to talk a little bit about the lack of satellites. Yes, we do have satellites out there, but they're sort of ad hoc, you know, they're sort of out there just by chance. We've got a probe that didn't quite make it to the moon, some Lunar Explorer and another craft over there. But not really all that much around Earth itself. There are lots of things that I want to escape ejected out of the sun from my various solid rocket booster attempts, but right around here we don't have anything, and that causes a bit of a problem when we're trying to go out much further into the solar system than to the moon. We can sort of cope with the moon, but we always want to make sure we have some way of getting, you know, a signal back home, no matter where we are. And that means today's episode is about CommSats. Now, there's a few things to clarify on CommSats. A lot of people think they need to be geostationary, and they don't. They really, really don't. The reason why geostationary is often chosen for, or geosynchronous, but geostationary is a special case for communication satellites, is that they're always in the same position in the sky if you're on Earth. So if you happen to be someone who wants to, say, communicate, or let's say you have a satellite dish on your house, well, you don't want to have to keep moving the satellite dish to point somewhere else. So in order to point in one specific place, you have to have something that's stationary in the sky, or close enough to stationary in the sky. So geostationary is where it's literally at inclination 0. So right sort of along this sort of equatorial line. If we extend it out into space, that's where geostationary is. You don't have to be exactly there, particularly. I'm not quite sure if the satellite dishes on your houses need to point at a geostationary. If you're a few degrees off, it won't matter too much because the dishes will be able to receive that. So that's geosynchronous. And geosynchronous, basically its definition is that the orbital period matches the rotation period of Earth. So it's always in the same on the same side of Earth, and it's always over the same point on north-south kind of line. But as it goes around throughout the day, depending on its inclination, it'll move. If you're on Earth, it'll look like it's moving north or south, but still, you know, in the same general location. Either one of those is fine, but communication satellites don't even need to be there at all. As long as they can see each other and form a network, you can put them in any height you like. For example, GPS. GPS is not geostationary. Most people, I think it is, but it isn't. It's up there. I think it's in semi-synchronous, so its orbital period is half that of Earth's rotation. So if you're on Earth, it looks like it passes over once a day, but its actual rotation period is half that of geostationary, so half that of Earth's rotation. It just all works out. So we're going to need to build something that will be suitable for this. So let's head over to the VAB and see if we've got anything that can get things out there. And to give you an idea of how far we need to go out there, let's have a look. How far out is the moon? Whoops, I don't exactly want to go focus to the moon. So the moon is 391 million meters away. Fair enough. The geostationary, or geosynchronous, is close enough in either case, is about 1/10 of that. So it's 35,786,000 meters. So it's going to be roughly where this is, I guess. Maybe that's even 35,793. That essentially is a geostationary orbit. So I think we've got, or a geosynchronous, certainly. It doesn't tell us what the inclination is there. So we've already got a mission, it looks like, when we go into the mission center, that's asking us to put it in the right place. Which is good because we get money for doing that, which is really good as far as our funds are concerned. Let's head over then and see if it's got a mission. So here we are, first communications satellite. Yes, we sort of could do that. But first geostationary satellite will get us more, much more in fact. We will get 180,000 total for that. We have to have a CommSat payload of 68 units, so we'll have to find something that will contain that. So 68 units, fair enough. And you just have to have a stable orbit. And it needs to match this. So 35,793,172 inclination of 0 degrees. Now it says that's the geostationary orbit. Geostationary circular orbit 35786 above the moon Earth's equator. This seems a little odd. It's off. Maybe that's to do with, let me just double check. No, that isn't the distance above the center of the Earth, because that would be something like 42,000. So I'm not quite sure why this particular orbit is asking us to go to 35. You know, we're going another 7 kilometers above the Earth's equator. In any case, that's what it's asking for, so we can put it right there. And once it's complete, we can obviously bring it exactly down to 35,786, sort of exactly. The main problem we have in KSP is that there's no real station keeping. I'd love for us to be able to say, hey, station keep this at exactly this, and it will just maintain that. Without that, what's going to happen is, over time, if we're slightly too high away from the Earth, that's going to sort of slip retrograde in its own orbit, if you like, compared to the other ones that are almost the same height. Just like if we were doing orbital maneuvering, we go outwards a little bit, and that would slow ourselves down, or at least appear to slow ourselves down as far as other things relative to us in orbit. And if we were inside that, of course, we'd speed up relative to other things nearly in the same orbit. So, yeah, without the ability to control things absolutely or edit save files, that's going to happen over time. So you want to get it roughly right, and then maybe just have enough of them up there. I'm obviously only going to show you one, but have enough of them up there that they can see each other, and you know, there'll be enough to not care too much about whether it's processing around in the orbit. So we're going to take it, and now we're going to see if we can build something. Better check. What's that amount again? 68 units. Fine. Okay, so here we are. This is the dish that would be sort of most suitable for our needs. If we have a look in communications, you'll see that this one has 75 gigameter range. It has a wide cone angle, so it can communicate in lots of different places, but it will use 50 watts of power. So we're going to need more than 50 watts of power on the craft. The ones that the original solar panels we had on here weren't good enough. They're like 15 watts each, and you'd only ever get one of them facing the sun at any one point in time. So we can move up to these. These are the ST3 solar panels. So, solar. ST3s, 156 watts each. So even if they're sort of not quite facing the sun, we should have enough power, at least, you know, until they're behind Earth or something along those lines. That's fine. They're a little large on the craft, and I think we have these. Now, this is non-realism overhaul, but RP0 or RP1 in our case, and that's just the nickname for the next version of RP0, of course. So here we can buy these. Let's take a look at these, I think. So let's get rid of these. And they have electric charge of 178 watts. Good. And they can't be retracted. So these are a very early form of solar panels, I guess. Can I put 2 of them in? Yep, they're not quite good there. I sort of want to have to put them up here, but if I do that, they're going to be well out of this fairing, and that means that means, although I do like the looks of them, and I get the feeling there should be 3 of these, like this. It would be well out of the fairing, and that means the tooling cost of the fairing would not be great, but that would look cool. I think we're all in agreement that would look cool. I think that's gonna have to wait though. I want to get quite a lot of savings from this, so for the moment, even though I really like that, I think I'm gonna stick. Oh, I'm gonna have to stick with this, which is the ST3, and just 2 of them should be fine. I want to make sure they are sort of balanced, and that they're not interfering with the RCS. Okay. And then we're going to put our dish back. There we go. And we have 2 of the other antennas that we were already using, and we want to make sure we re-initiated those as activate on number 1. And number 2, do we need to do anything with this? I think we need to activate that as well. Yep, so we got that going. Now, this gives us 11 442, which I'm sure should be enough for this kind of thing. Remember though that this is still the same craft, and its second stage is a bit lackluster. So we still have to pitch, quite high to get it up into orbit. But once it's up there, it shouldn't be too bad. Lofting high isn't too much of a problem, of course, if we're going to geostationary. The main issue is going to be inclination, I think, because we're not at 0 degrees. Yes, we could use another launch pad, but it won't have any of the same facilities that we've already been spending money on here. So, yeah. We're not terribly far from inclination, but we will have to correct for that, and that will drain a lot of this. That said, well, this is fairly cheap for us to launch, so we may as well see if it can actually do the job. Why not? Let's build one, and after I finish checking the staging, of course, I'll build it after that, and we'll see you perhaps when we're almost into orbit. As you can see, we're heading up into orbit here. We're on the AJ-10 stage, which we've already got an APO of 283, which is fine. Our periapsis is coming up, but you'll see that I've set MechJeb to fly us to 0 inclination, not 28.6. So it's doing a dog leg halfway up. This is the only way to do this. You can sort of wait until you're up. I just wanted to give it a try this way first. And you can see its time to APO is increasing now, so we can bring this angle down, and then we can bring it down again, and it's still increasing. And of course, we need to get ready to disengage the autopilot, so we're going to bring it down again. And it's still decreasing, but that should stop before it hits 0 again. Again, you can see just how severe the dogleg is, and that inclination is getting to, well, just under 28 degrees. It's decided, MechJeb seems to have decided, no, I'm going to give up on that now, because we're almost to the orbit, so that's fine. We've corrected it a little bit. We'll do the rest of the correction once we're in orbit. So of course we've got the periapsis coming up now. The AJ-10 still has a fair amount of fuel in it. We've even got this top level sort of drive for the satellite itself on top of that. So just watching the periapsis coming in. And let's bring our angle down again. So now coming all the way down towards 0, I think. And in fact, even here, I think I'm going to hit 0. And we should get into a 300 by 300 kilometer orbit just fine. It's coming in towards 0, but so is our periapsis. And that should be nice and comfortable. Very well, hopefully. Let's give this a go and see how close I get. So 500 and 400. It's going to get faster as we go. Not much I can really do now about the time till APO, but that is just fine. It's coming in towards 0, and there's 0, there's 100, there's 200, and shut down. 284 by 280. How's that for a circular orbit? So here we are in an orbit, and just a brief note, I haven't actually put on that payload because this isn't going to be our eventual ComSat thing that will complete the mission. This is really our test vehicle. We want something up there, ideally that's not, if not geostationary, then geosynchronous, which would really help target future missions. But also it'll give us a good test bed to see just how much extra delta V we're going to need. You may think, hey, this thing's already been to the moon. Why would it need extra delta V to get closer than the moon? The answer really is in our inclination. We're really disadvantaged, and I'll show you why. I've set up a number of maneuvers just to demonstrate this with this particular vehicle. So here's our orbit. It's quite a nice circular orbit. I got it to 284 by 280. Really good. And we got it down to 27.8 degrees, but that is a huge amount of inclination. And you can see there's our inclination, and here's where our orbit needs to be, this purple line. So just how far those two are off. Maybe in regular KSP, that would be, yeah, just burn at the ascending node, like right here. Yeah, you could. But we have limited fuel. This first maneuver to take us out, which is, this is what this maneuver is. Oh, that's maneuver 2. This is the maneuver 1. This first maneuver will leave Earth, a sort of low Earth orbit, and take us all the way out to here, so at the ascending node. Now note, we haven't actually corrected our inclination there. It's still on the same inclination we're currently on. We could try and do that inclination change at the same time. Don't get me wrong. You know, there's efficiency there. Or maybe efficiency. We'll see that in a second. So this first maneuver, 2400, which is the entire contents of this AJ10 stage. Fine, you say, you've got 600 more delta V. Except, we're still not without changing our inclination. We're going to take another 1400 hit, which is more fuel than we have, getting the other side of the orbit up. So if we move, this is maneuver number 2, so it's going from here and pushing this side of our orbit up towards geosync. So that's still quite a lot of delta V. And then, once we get out there, we'd have to do something like this. We'd choose a point here, add a maneuver node, and then we would change it like this. Okay, so you can see what that does to the rest of our orbit, however. It pushes the other side out. So that's just a natural consequence. So if we're going to do that, we could do it as the second maneuver instead of the third, and that would push our orbit out as well as changing the inclination at the same time. But if we didn't do that, we could also pull this back in, and then we'd have some problems with radial. We can move it around. You get the idea. We can play with this to get it where we want it, but at quite a large amount of expense. Maneuver node 3 is lots to do that kind of thing. So obviously not great. What are our other options then? So here's the second idea. Well, we can adjust both the inclination and the apoapsis at the same time. We can do it around the periapsis. We can burn mostly normal, which is also going to push our orbit outwards. And we're also going to push a little bit prograde, you can see, and get ourselves to the right height. But that is 4,700 meters per second, and it's far, far, far more than we actually have. So we can't even get to another maneuver, but we can add that. Let's add this other maneuver in, and let's just see, you know, how much extra delta V it is just to circularize then once we're out there. So that would seem to be sort of close enough. And this one is 1400. So it has to be, if this last stage is going to be used to do that circularization, we need around 1460 meters per second in it. That's going to perhaps need another episode worth of development. So what can we do with this ComSat? We can't reach geosynchronous or geostationary. Well, we can reach geostationary, but can we reach geosynchronous? So all we need to do for that is not care about inclination at all. It doesn't matter to us at all. All we want to do is probably just sort of doing it at the ascending and descending nodes here, just so that we have a reference point that's nice and easy to grab. So let's just say right there, we want to maneuver. And now we just want to get to, you know, roughly the same kind of distance. And let's see how far we need to go out there. All right, so that's 2,400. And again, we may not have enough for the other side of it. That's okay. Let's bring that in a little bit. And this is where I got punished because I tried to do a dog leg halfway up. Would have probably had more delta V if I had done that. If I hadn't have done that, I should say, and not cared about inclination, but I wanted to see how close we could get. And there's no harm flying into something else. So we brought that all the way out there. It's close enough. And that is, what's this maneuver? 2,429. So almost exactly the amount in this stage. And then the same thing applies here. If we just take another maneuver and we extend that one out, roughly, the second maneuver is going to be 1400. So we won't get to a synchronous orbit. Unfortunately, with this current craft, it just can't do it. But we know what we need to do, so that needs to be something that we need to design into the next craft that we decide to put together. However, we can get up here. And remember, we also need to engineer extra delta V on top because we're going to be carrying a ComSat payload. Luckily, we do get 2 years for that other mission, for this mission to actually complete. So this is going to be a 2-part episode. First of me sort of demonstrating the principles in the first one. Maybe you already know them, in which case, you know, feel free to skip ahead and we'll get to the next episode where we actually build something. And sort of spoilers, we're probably going to need larger boosters on that bottom stage just to give that the push it needs, so that we're not as inefficient on the upper stages where we get to the point where I'm having to pitch up 20 degrees just to get into orbit. So if I can't get into geostationary or geosynchronous with this, what are we going to do instead? Well, I think we could try for semi-synchronous. We sort of need an orbital period of half the original. Not going to worry too much about exact figures there, but let's see whether we can just take, for example, this 3000 and see where half of that gets us, because we're going to be using some of it on the other half as well. So, you know, if we take, whoops, not that. If we take a point here, and let's extend this outwards until we get to around 1500. Oh, 1600. How far out is that? That is 12082. Now, what did I say it was for semi-synchronous? Let me just double check. It's around 20 million kilometers. Can we make that, I wonder? Let me just move my windows around. So what's 20 million on this? Let's just put that on. Let's see where that is. 20 million? Yeah, around there. That's going to leave us with 1,000 left. So what happens if we circularize on this side? Is it 1,000 to roughly circularize this? Let's just bring that back around again. Roughly circular? No, it's still 1,400. So yeah, we're not even going to get to semi-synchronous. What we are probably going to get to instead, let's go back to this one. Let's just put this in directly. So we've got 3,049. Okay, so split the difference. So let's just call this 1,500 and update. And moving over to 2, let's apply the other 1,500. And we can just tailor that a little bit just to get things much better. Oh, there are different points now, aren't they? Let me just get rid of maneuver node 2. Can I just delete it on here? Be nice if I could. Doesn't seem to give me the option to delete it. Oh well, let's just get rid of it the other way then. We'll just do it and add the correct amount right here and just say we want prograde 1,500 update, and that is fine. And then we want a second maneuver node, add a maneuver, and this we're going to snap to the apoapsis. Yep. And then we're going to add the other 1,500. And what does that get us to? Yeah, so it's a bit lopsided because you probably want to spend 1,600 on the first one, 1,400 on the second. So I'm just going to edit that now. So let's say we do 1,600 updates, and then maneuver 2, 1,400. Yeah, and that's more circular. Okay, so that might serve as a decent comm satellite. It's not, you know, an ideal one. It's not at the right distance. We're going to need something more powerful for that. But what it would do when it's out there is, let's say we had a satellite right here, it would certainly be able to see other satellites here and over here somewhere. So it would serve perfectly fine. I just need to tailor that into a circular orbit, and then we'll send it up there and see how well it does. And here we are with the first leg of our burn. How are we doing on electric charge? It's halfway down. That's going to be the main disadvantage of having to retain this AJ-10 stage. Its avionics aren't terribly amazing on power. The other disadvantage of doing this at an inclined orbit is it's harder to, just like getting to the moon, it's harder to get up here and match its inclination. So any of the comsats that we're going to put up, they're not going to be in the same plane unless we're really, really good at it, which clearly I'm not. So they will be not in this same disk. They could be all over the place. So we can compensate by having more of them. This mission's going to want the geostationary, of course, so we're going to have to fulfill that next episode. But for this one, we'll certainly have a couple of relay satellites. up there, which should be able to do the job. So as we're coming in here now, we've got 500 meters per second to go. I've just moved this out a little bit. We're actually going to get to around 11,761, so 11,000 kilometers, 11 million meters. So we're coming up here now. We've got connection still. So I'm just going to cut this off as we get to the point, roughly. Otherwise it'll chase the thing. There we go. That's close enough. And then our next node is going to need to be able to rotate. So we're going to do just that. Our nitrous is falling, but should be enough for this sort of maneuver sort of thing. And our next rendezvous for our maneuver node is out here. So we'll skip forward. And although it says it's a 37-second burn, that's on the current stage, not on the next stage over. So we're going to have to, yeah, take advantage of that fact. Point at the node and start burning early. So H, forward. Z, are you going to light? Come on. I know you want to light. There we go. Oh no, and the AJ10 has a problem. No, this isn't good. What problem did you give us? Test flight is fun. Failed to ignite. Failed to ignite. Okay, so that means it's recoverable. Will you try and ignite again? No, that looks like a permanent failure. So we're not going to get as far as we want. So let's lose the stage. And we'll have another stage to go. Off we go. Nothing I can do now, but we do have, of course, this remaining stage. This has our antenna on it, and we should probably activate that now. It's our final stage as well. And I think we have to set its target, so we're going to set its target to, I want to say active vessel. So that will then act as a relay, I think. Yep, so set to active vessel, and that is fine. There's not much really we can do now. This is just 3 minutes 44 of us burning. And see if we can raise the other side of this orbit as much as we can away from the Earth. So let's see what that takes us to. It's only about half of what we needed to have. So it's not going to be great, but it should serve. And here we are with a tiny bit of hydrazine left, just enough to start us spinning perhaps. Yeah, here we are. We are pretty much empty. Our final height was 11.2 megameters by 4.5, thereabouts, which takes us, you know, a bit much less than halfway out to where we wanted this orbit to be. So now we know just how much of a climb we've got to make. And one of the ways we might be able to do that in the next episode is to do with kick motors or solid motors again. Just like we did to the moon at first, we can use them to get up near geostationary, but still with a controllable core on the top of it, so that we can do some final maneuvering. Okay, so that is this particular vessel. Let's just disable that and keep RCS on, SAS off, and maybe just start us spinning a little bit. Turn the smart ASS off. And that spinning will keep us pointing in this same direction, of course, and more importantly, we'll keep some solar energy hitting our solar panels. Although I don't like the fact that that jet seems to go through the solar panel, but never mind, let's ignore that. We're nicely spinning. This is set up. Now, I guess we can then shut down the avionics on this probe. So if we activate avionics, we're using 50 watts. Shut it down, we're using 1 watt. We can't actually do anything, but because we've got no fuel anyway, we can't actually fly the vessel in terms of pointing in different directions. But because we've got no fuel, it doesn't matter. We've got something up here. All right, and that will serve as the first satellite, not a terribly good one, in a CommSat network. We need to improve the craft next episode to get that done. And with that done, that brings us almost to the end of the episode, except for this 1962 orbital rocketry node, which is a day from completion. So, hey, we might as well wait one day just to get that to completion. And then we can go and take a look at what we can buy, or at least what we've got available. 1962 orbital rocketry. So, that's Agena D. We got an early AJ10 upgrade, LR101, LR105. Are we using an LR105? That would be a really nice thing if that does. LR89. Is there a 79 upgrade? There isn't. That's unfortunate. The 89 is the booster. We've not been using that so far. Let's take a look at the LR105. Increased performance, it says. Interesting. See how much it costs. Let's bring another one of our Geo launchers up. Okay, so let's see if the LR105 is in here. Take you off. Are you LR105? You are. Good. So let's just pin you for a second. And tap LR105. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one of these that we actually use. I think I'm using the some vanilla-like one. So the NA6 is now available. We're using the NA5, are we? Let's take a look. Engine. Which config? NA5. So NA5 to NA6. Still only one ignition, but it's about 10 more kilonewtons of force. Good. What is its burnout like? So NA5 versus NA6. Oh, it's got 20 extra seconds. So we could stretch that stage, although that's the weak stage. So I'm not sure whether I want it to be stretched. So instead of looking at that, let's take a look at this. So what is its thrust to weight ratio going to be? And this is the stage, a 6:41. If I change this config across, actually, current config LR43NA5. No, we can get a much better stage. I haven't even spotted this before. So the NA5 doesn't give us much extra. Rated burn time is 5:50 for both of them. Maybe I was looking at the wrong NA5. I think I was probably looking at this one. Anyway, so if we pay 13,000, we're now much higher thrust to weight ratio, much less time, of course, but that should mean this is a much more positive stage. We're not going to wait quite a long time to get it towards orbit. So I think that is a good thing just with that. What we do need to remember to do, however, is just, well, first of all, remove that. But then we need to R&D this one, and I just take the cheap team. That will let us make sure we don't get many failures with this. Do we have any upgrades for our other engines? None for you. And I need to put things back, don't I? Let me just make sure I put things back before I start modifying other engines. Any upgrade for you? No upgrade. No upgrade for the AJ10 mid, and I'm going to have to redo all the sort of staging for this. That's no problem. And that we're not going to have any upgrade for that top stage. It's just not going to happen. So we're still at 11,630, but maybe we can fly into orbit more efficiently than before. And if I don't dogleg, well, I can probably do a simulation and see how well that goes. But I'll do that off camera. You've seen enough for one episode, I think. So first CommSat is up there. It's not good. It's not circular orbit, but it will do its job. It's got the right equipment on board to do it anyway. And of course, we'll see you next episode for hopefully a geosynchronous or geostationary satellite. As normal, thanks for watching, everyone. And feel free to like, subscribe, share, etc. as normal. Or leave comments about how I need to do things better and how. Thanks for watching.